they can let us know, or, and we can stop the recording in between. So, yeah. So basically the idea is that it's, if you see like your own childhood, or I see my own childhood, like I have experienced a lot of things, and but I learn how to behave in the world by seeing the adults around me. Like if my adults around me are able to deal with conflicts, then I learn how to deal with conflicts. If adults around me push their own conflicts under the carpet, then I also see that. Sorry. Yeah. When other adults also don't, deal with conflicts in a way which is very open and transparent, then I also learn that, or they push it under the carpet, I also do the same thing. So, so I had, in my house, there was not much of a culture of, engaging with conflicts. Some time ago, I even asked my sister that does she remember seeing her parents having any conflicts or, arguments or fights. So she also didn't have very strong memory of that. So, and plus when I'm with adults and how we are socialized around us, that to question, adults and things like that. So we are not allowed to like express ourselves, fully, because अगर उनको question करो तो बोलेंगे कि आंख उठा के बात कर रहे हो या तमीज नहीं है, all these things. And so we learn, not to express ourselves, not to be honest, which means that we learn how to not even share our needs, and kind of go in our own shells if we have seen more stronger reactions around it with our adults around us. So we pick up that. So I also picked up those habits. And again, there's a book in nonviolent communication. It's called Being Genuine. The tagline is "Stop being nice, start being real." So, so in which Marshall talks about Marshall Rosenberg, who created NVC. He talks about how, he also picked up the habit of being nice as a kid, and nice, he says, nice dead people, So I had picked up that habit. And as a result, in my relationships, when I grow up, I am not able to express myself. If somebody is saying some things that is more stronger than me, or in their voice or expression, then I give up. And when I give up, I kind of suppress it. And after some time, I bring it up. And when I bring it up, there's so much pain and trigger that it comes out in a blast. And then I don't know how to deal with conflicts. So when a conflict comes, I want to run away from it. So in my past relationships, intimate relationships also, whenever a challenge came, I would just avoid it or, disappear from that. So I didn't know how to deal with this. And why I'm saying all these things, because why is it important in parenting, to understand this? Because if you want your child to develop as a full human being, to be able to navigate this world, it's really important for them to be able to express themselves. And then other part is that sometimes when we are not used to expressing honestly with care, then what our default setting becomes is like more like a rebellion kind of expression, which is an obnoxious kind of an expression. So in that, others get disconnected. Then when you express, you don't know how to deal when somebody gets hurt. You start taking responsibility of their hurt, that, okay, I must have done something wrong. Or either you start blaming them and run away from it. Then you have, they say in conflict, people have responses like fight and flight. Either you defend or you attack. And the third one is fawning, fawning like dogs when you scold them or something, and they come very politely and then lie down, and so that also becomes another defense mechanism, to impress people, to make them happy, so it's like when we're taught like, okay, say sorry, say sorry again, say sorry that you don't mean it, things like that. So since how we are seeing the adults around us, that shapes who we are. And so like 20 years I grow up and pick up some things, then another 20 years I have my own relationships and have the messes and deal with that. And then around 40, I came across nonviolent communication, where I really saw that, there is something else than this, how do I not be obnoxious and instead be more compassionate and empathic to other people when they are saying difficult things? Or how do I express myself with courage and honesty and clarity? So when I started learning that it made my life much more easier, because with my older habits, every night when I would sleep, I would have somebody in my life in that day who has kind of screwed up things for me to blame for before I sleep. But since I got into it more and more, I could process things with the people there when things happen. And even if I'm not able to process, I can process it internally and come to peace with the whatever has happened. So it's much less. Now I don't have many stories that I live with, each day. So yeah, so that came to me, and that's why I got interested in offering workshops for parenting, and also I do on intimate relationships, because in that we are carrying, all that thing. So how can we do that? And so NVC has a kind of a template, and as maybe Sneha also mentioned, is written in the text also, that we are planning a longer 6-session program where we'll be having 90-minute calls, or 6 sessions on focusing on different aspects of nonviolent communication to handhold people so they can learn it and then they can practice in their own lives. And when we have those calls, we will have interactions and things like that. So yeah, so first part which I was sharing was that why is it important? So maybe before I start sharing, what are the aspects of NVC which are useful, I might ask, I would like to ask some people here, like especially who are, engaging with children, whether as parents or as educators or in some other capacity. Like, what are your challenges, and what value do you see in this thing, or what brings you here, or what is the challenge in your life where you are seeking some value or learning? If I can have some sense, maybe 2 people, it would help me ground, and also how much do you resonate with what I shared? So if anybody would like to come forward and share, they're welcome. Yeah, hi Dipali, you can.
Hi. I think as a parent, one of the challenges I face is a resistance to what I might be saying and what the child may be wanting to do. I don't know, there is this distance and I face that as resistance from the kids. And I think it pretty much starts at pre-teen and goes on to teens. So it has some hormonal element also. And by hormonal, and also this, there is obviously a change in how their needs. So they're wanting to go out, and as much as they want to go out and explore, but sometimes I face this around structure, like there is some structure that is required to a child's day-to-day activity. I meet that resistance.
Yeah.
And in that moment there is this paucity of time, and I want it done because I feel it needs to be done. And yeah
I hear you. So there is a disconnect sometimes, and probably you need to sometimes be more vocal or push, and the child resists, and and there's a further disconnect. And I hear maybe concerns, what you call structure, is maybe concerns for safety or concerns for order and rhythm of life. If the child is not sleeping and they're not well.
Technology, for example, these days is the biggest hurdle, right? They want a gadget, and as much as the child's mind is obviously not as, or I feel is not as developed to understand that this is addictive. I face it myself. This is addictive. I can be on the phone, and before I know it, it's 20 minutes I've spent doing nothing, right? So this is just to give you an example. So it could be like, okay, no more iPad, no more television.
And you have to almost make a demand and push things and set boundaries, and then there's a resistance and there is drama.
Yes.
All that happens, and you don't want a life full of drama. You want things to flow. I mean, disconnects and fights.
Yeah, and some days you may want it more than the others.
Yeah.
Because some days
What meaning? Some days you may want more. What?
Some days you may want it more than the other because maybe your day is very structured.
Yeah,
So
sure.
there are days wherein my day is not so structured. I can spend 20 minutes
Sure.
around that, and I may have the capacity to do it. But then there are days I don't have either the capacity or maybe the that structure, that my time frame doesn't allow me to argue about why they shouldn't be watching so much television.
Yeah. So yeah. So I would say that one basic principle, one of the important principles of nonviolent communication, which was kind of brought up by Marshall B. Rosenberg, so is the needs. So like each individual, just as you are with your partner, or with your mother, father, your colleague, your friend, we have needs. When we want to go out for dinner, where do we go? We all have our stories. We need, where do we want to meet? Or with your partner, there could be so many things. But only difference that happens with children is that somehow this idea that we are responsible for them, for their care, and we believe that they are not old enough to understand the complications of things, which is also partly true, I would say. So there is another role that we play of a kind of a nurturer. I mean, that's what is there, and providing safety, care, and things like that. And as you said, at the teenage when comes, because till maybe when the child is 5 years old, you can still probably hold the child and make them sit somewhere.
Yeah, correct.
When 2-year-old is even easier. 1-year-old is very easier, but of course, a child may create a scene in that also. They might lie down on the street, they may cry. I mean, every individual has a way of resisting.
Correct.
They do have a way of getting their own power.
Yes.
You may think that people don't have power, but they have their own ways of getting their power.
Absolutely.
But as it goes, when their size is bigger and it's even more difficult, and much is happening, and the self-respect and identity is being formed, and autonomy need is there, and many other things that come up. So it's even more difficult. So I would say, if I was to use the principles of nonviolent communication to focus on these two individuals or two beings, whether it's a dog or a adult, child, or anybody, or human being, they all have needs. Like some time ago, it happened that my dog got some confusion and the dog bit me, because the dog was scared. He thought that I'm coming to hit him, and it was night, and he was too nervous or something. But yeah, so he was doing his best to meet his need for safety. So and my first reaction was, okay, now I know why people attack dogs and throw acid on them. I was so angry for a moment, and then I saw that okay, he got confused, and he has a reptilian brain which can't process more of reasoning so much, emotion so much. He knows fight and flight, has a small brain, very few tools he has. So that's what is happening. So probably one thing I would suggest in this, that to start seeing children as fully experiential or sentient beings, as that they have emotions, they have feelings, they have needs, just as you would not ask your partner in a certain way. Of course, there's more, because this a belief that okay, they should listen to me. I know better for them.
Somewhere there is this, that I'm trying to care for them in a better
If your
way.
partner smokes a cigarette, you won't say like shut up. I mean, you may say, but the chances are less. You may easily like adults do so many things which are dangerous.
Oh yeah.
So addictive and all those things. So that is one part. So more, if you understand that, do I want them to live in a control and command world, or do I want them to understand things? Because today they will stop because of your fear.
Yeah.
But outside, there's enough avenues for them to kind of, subvert your strategies. So that is the challenge. So if you start thinking that, okay, how do I practice in a way that, and also treat them as, okay, maybe they will not do everything that I want, just as my partner who may be an idiot, he's not also not doing it, they can also behave like that. So फिर मैं उनसे बराबर की तरह से लड़ूं ना फिर. And more we say, because the other reverse side is the child also might think that parents should do that. You're a parent, you should do that, and you are also struggling in your life. So this is actually a both way thing we struggle. And sometimes children also start using this, when they'll know that the manipulation is the way of the world, they can also use that. Like talking to one partner, father or mother, getting things done, and all kinds of things happen in that also. So yeah, so how does this sound, that to see the idea of needs, that each living being has needs, and their needs are as beautiful or as kind of involved and engaging for them. Their needs create as much emotions as they create for you, and that's what in our workshop, when we do, we will understand the language of needs, and there's a difference between a need and a strategy, So we often confuse with that, and we keep fighting on the strategies. But moment we go to the need, we can see the humanness of the other person. Like if I see the need of the dog, that was safety, and then I say, okay, if I have need for safety and I don't know any other skill, that's what I'll do. So it probably takes time, and there are many other aspects to it, but just this one part which I was saying, that how do I see them as equals, and that doesn't mean that what knowledge you have about safety, you don't share that knowledge with them. So how does this sound? I mean, do you see some value in this?
I have very briefly used the needs calendar.
Yeah.
Just to give you some context, I'm a counselor. So
Sure.
I've kind of, one of the modalities I was trained in, we were asked to use this, and I understand. And yet sometimes I find that my mind is so conditioned to, and the nurturers, maybe as a primary caregiver, that kind of takes over.
Yeah.
And
you have some other needs in that moment, and some other needs arise for you.
And like you said, strategy. This was the part that I find very missing, because we are mostly strategy based. Yes. Or I am mostly, I would like some strategy, but I'm missing the humaneness there.
Yeah. So basically, when you have some other needs, and you need empathy, actually. And the child may not be the character who can give you the empathy, especially if you have a trigger with the child, and which can happen with adults also.
Yeah, sure.
So probably in that moment, I'm not saying throw the baby with the bathwater and say that I don't have any needs, Of course, love your needs, Of course, enjoy your needs, enjoy your own humanness. Give empathy to yourself, or call a friend and say, "Yaar, just listen to me, yaar. I'm just pissed off with my son. He's such a fucking idiot, And then share what you want to share, and get that support from somebody else. Maybe that could be just one strategy, and we can, as we go in the sessions, we'll go deeper into it. But that's the basic thing, I mean, there are answers in lot of possibilities, lot of strategies at every place. But when we attach to one strategy, we think this is the only strategy, our options get very limited, and then we keep pushing each other and, pulling each other. So that's what, so probably I'll leave it here for now.
Thank you for the
Thank you for asking this question. It really allowed me to share a lot more, of what I wanted to bring in. And one aspect of NVC I could share through your question. So let's hear anybody else who has anything,
Yeah, hi, I'm Nikhil Goel. I wanted to check, like my kids, we have two kids, one 13-year-old boy and 10-year-old girl, and they have a lot of friends. So they play a lot of silly games on YouTube for a whole day. How to and what to do to control it, or within permissible limit, how to do it? Your views on it.
One way is that when you say how to control it, or how to engage with them and come to a different understanding on it, how to share my concerns and how to figure out things with them. There's two words that you're using which will get you into trouble. One is you use the word silly games. Okay? Second, you said how to control. I think these two words can make life difficult for you. Do you understand why I'm saying this? Because the word silly games is silly for you, and there's so much fun for them. like somebody playing golf, an adult, maybe a politician, very wise person, just stands there and hits the ball and the ball goes to this damn hole. What a silly game. Do you understand what I'm saying? So if you have to start seeing that this silly game is meeting a need, and of course you can call it to yourself a silly game, but don't say in front of them it's a silly game. You will be into trouble. Because the moment you say silly game, you've lost them, because you've given a judgment that they are silly. They don't know anything. You know better. There's a whole story that you've opened up and they are shut off from you. But at the same time, when you say silly games, there's an interpretation, but behind that is a need. So can you share the details, like the observation? What do you call a silly game?
So it's like going around that fort and killing people, working in team,
Okay.
and jumping off the roof and all those kind of violent games.
It's like what our Indian army or Pakistan army or American army does. That's what you're saying, which adults play with the ministers and with billions and billions of dollars. That's the game they're playing. Okay.
Correct.
You see, you laughed at it, So they are playing this game because the world has taught them that this is a game. And as Marshall says that we have made violence to be an entertainment, So what you are saying is a beautiful concern. But if you bring this concern only for the children and maybe not for the other adults, I hope you might be bringing in for other things also when you watch a news or something. But I think in between your concern is that about violence, So instead of using the word silly game, you can say your need is that safety for everybody. You are concerned that if they play this game, they will turn violent. They will get into trouble. Aggression will become part of their lives. They will not be able to manage their relationships. Probably that's what I would see it like that. And I would also be equally concerned when my child starts playing these games, which I would also call them silly and dangerous. But I would go deeper into it, that my judgment, what is the need hidden behind my judgment? And my need is the safety for everybody and more of meaning and purpose. So can you share, what is your concern? So we will try to look at the need behind it. What is your concern when you see them playing this game of running in the fort and killing people?
What happens is that when they lose or when they keep doing it for 4 or 5 hours continuously, I see that they're getting very violent with their friends in school and downstairs when they play. And then slowly it comes to home also.
Yes. So of course, if that's what you're constantly in this, when you go to sleep, that's what goes into your head, and that and that also becomes a way of your dealing with challenges, If you don't like somebody, kill them, If you don't like somebody, moves up from the relationship, Like I was doing a workshop with children, and somebody said, I hate this, and they were class 3 kids, and they would say, I hate this person, and they said, oh, tu to meri dushman hai, And then I said, oh, dushman meaning what? And one boy jumped to say that dushman meaning India and Pakistan, So he had a very clear idea of what is dushman. A cricket matches, what happens in a cricket match? The patake chhodna or marpeet, abhi UK mein hua, yahan hua. So I'm just saying, so what I think you need to have empathy for them, that they have been bombarded with this onslaught of so much, like a $1 billion industry, which uses all this violence and games to sell their products. So whether they of course buy the products also, and then with the product, they buy the culture also. So it's a much deeper thing, but for that, you need to understand first, that it won't just go away like that. And again, start seeing them as silly as the other adults, Like why, just for a second, you think of it, like how much money goes in the defense budget for all the countries, Isn't that silly that we can't negotiate these things, and people are dying, people are not having food, and so much money is going into it? I'm not saying one country or two countries, but as a humanity, as a civilization. So that's what I'm trying to say, that do you see something of value in what I'm saying?
I think you have said a lot of lot of things which has a lot of depth. You have said a lot of things like all defense budget put together of the whole world, vis-a-vis how many people are dying because of hunger and
Yeah. Yeah.
the
Yeah. And the other part is like when I was doing this workshop, and moment I brought up something, even if I bring up some puppets, everybody starts getting a scarcity, even if I bring up a card, मैं तो कह रहा हूँ कि मैं कुछ भी लेके आ जाऊंगा तो if there's 10 children and 3 things, everybody starts fighting. So the other is the competition, the other silly game that has been taught to us is competition, individualism, so we are not taught collaboration, winning over each other. So our schooling, so many things. So they are constantly, we are sending them to places where they learn these games, So probably, as you said, yeah, there are very deeper things, but sometimes we are doing things out of comfort and not questioning them. But it's a good starting point that you start questioning it. Then you question that where else are they learning this, What else is happening in our lives? But what I said, told Dipali also, that try to see them as the Minister of Defense, and having a conversation with them. How will you have this conversation?
good
So that's
idea.
what they're seeing
Good
around.
idea.
Great. So, but yeah, when we do the workshop, we can go more into it, do role plays, have guided conversations, have a response from them, and then you respond, something like that. But yeah, but I'm just giving you a way of seeing it, which comes from NVC again, that the interpretation and the observation, because when I'm having an interpretation, I'm already into trouble, and from that observation, if I see my trigger, I can talk about my needs, So children might like to hear that I'm concerned about the violence that happens between your brother and your sister, because I love you both, rather than saying it's a silly game, because because there's something truth in that silly game, but behind that, what is happening? How do you bring that, So those are your needs, and how do we have a language in our house where we can talk about our needs, which are very human for everybody, and then we go deeper into it and find strategies which work for all. So that's what at least the concept is there. So
Thanks for
thank you.
sharing your thoughts.
Yeah, thanks, Nikhil, for bringing up. So yeah, so again, every time we are coming to needs, and Sneha, do you have any suggestions? Where should I go? I'm really enjoying this part also of listening to people. But earlier I'd done a different flow. If you want, you have any idea? I'm just taking some feedback from you while this is going on.
I think it's up to you how you want to take it ahead. If there are more questions or if somebody would like to share something more, we can take that. I think it would give
Yeah.
a chance for everyone to participate in this
We
discussion.
can take that. And I'll just, before that, maybe I'll just go into a little bit into, so NVC has 4 elements. One is observations. When we talk about observations and interpretations, like it's easy to say that something is addictive, or addiction, that's an interpretation. But if you say that you are spending so much time on this, that's an observation. If you say that this game, I see guns, that's an observation. But when you say it's a silly game, it's an interpretation. The moment people hear interpretation, they hear a judgment in it. And then again, their story gets different, then they stop hearing you. So one is observation and interpretation. Other is between how, when you see something, you feel something. Like you feel concerned when your child is doing something which is like harmful or something. And you have a concern because you have a need. And you could be having a need for safety, need for care, nurturance, whatever, connection. And when we talk about strategies, the 4th aspect is how do we make requests? Like in the same workshop that I was doing, somebody said that, can we have tell children that only they speak one at a time, can we make that rule? I said, maybe we can make that, but it's not a doable thing, And then I asked the children that, why do you say when somebody else is also talking? And one girl said very beautifully, she said that, I have a fear that I will not be heard, or somebody said, मैं भूल जाता हूँ. So so understanding everybody has different way of doing things, and then we find strategies, and which is the request that, so how can our request be more specific rather than saying like, start being nice or love me or whatever. You can say, what do you want them to do? Or even to say what you don't want, say what you want them to do, and making more doable requests, more specific requests. So these are the 4 elements. So our first session will be more like an overview of NVC. Where does it come from? What does it address? What challenges it looks at? What value it can add? Then we go through different sessions, like one on observation maybe, and then we can, or feelings, and then one on needs or requests. And then we have another friend of ours, Urmila Samson from Pune. She is has homeschooled 3 children. Homeschooled meaning she is unschooled, and she's a good friend. And she has a lot of stories to share, and she kind of supports many other parents who call her. And again, she tries to very need-based parenting, and of course, taking care of her own needs. So how do we build a culture of, like, this, a friend of mine does workshops on masculinity, and he says that he does workshops for men, and he says that sometimes men, according to him, like, they never grow up. So how do we treat them as grown-ups? How, and more we treat them as that, like, often it happens there's a 40-year-old guy, and maybe his father or mother still think he's a kid. That also happens. So if you give them that space, if you give them that respect, if you allow them to make mistakes, but when they make mistakes, they mess up, you are around them, you can support them when they want. Because we cannot have a life without mistakes. We cannot have a life without messes. We cannot have a marriage or a relationship where people don't fight. So all these things will happen. But how do we show up when these things happen? How do we have those skills and capacities? That's the issue. And in that, what comes is conflict resolution, engaging with them, having difficult conversations, allowing to hear their honesty, allowing to hear their no, saying no, understanding each other, sharing your vulnerability, sharing your needs. It's like, as an adult, it's not, you're not some levitating sadhu or something. You also have needs, and let them know that my mother is also really screwed up right now. So yeah, so you can allow so how do we make a very authentic connection with our children? And so they also trust you. It's not कि उनको लग रहा है कि ये करवाना मम्मी को, ये डैड को करवाना है, पर काम ऐसे करवा रहे. So yeah, I mean, we have gone through some of these things, and we feel shitty after 20 years of that. So anyways, so that's where, so as Sneha was saying, I mean, so I've completed the thing. So the breakdown of the 6 sessions, kind of one with Urmila, and then maybe, and in between we'll be keep doing role plays, practices, questions, responding to them. And when we do this session, we would also be trying to make a community out of it. So people can then connect to each other and learn, and we can be on those groups and all and support. And it won't be just those 6 sessions, and we can go further together and deepen our practices. So now, hearing everything, what I'm saying is, if anybody has any questions or anything that's alive for you, please let us know. Yeah. Hi, Pankaj. Yeah.
So I have one question. Actually, in our education systems, as you said, it's very competitive cultures we develop from the childhood.
Yeah.
And so the students become selfish when they grown up, and they're thinking only for themselves, not about the society or environment and ecosystems damage. So there is no holistic view. So my question is, how we can change this culture of the competitions from the school, and what are the steps the grading systems in our education systems, and because this grading systems is started because we have the Macaulay education-based learning systems after British Empire rules out. Before that, we have the Gurukuls and other systems. So our current education system is just 200, 150 years old, but the human civilization is very long. So how? So just means how we can
we address that? And, I mean, you're concerned about like individualism, selfishness, aggression, all this that comes out of it, and probably you would want how people can collaborate. How can that happen?
Yeah, that's my point. It means how, what's the changes we need to do in our current education systems. So because the school is driven by the trustee, and trustees are the businessmen and all these politicians. And so they run the school only for the profit, money. So the education becomes a business. That's the right now the concern, main concern. So education is not just the student will be the commodity in the education systems, and they are treated as the source of incomes, not as a character building or like that.
Yeah, I guess what you are saying is very important. If that happens, the world will change. If this competition goes away, people are stopped seeing them as commodities and their humanness is seen. It's a very profound thing that you're saying. It will have changed the whole world. But problem is, people who are kind of running the show are coming from the same system, and they have, like, the fish does not know that it's in water. So they have come from there. They don't even know there's a problem in that. There is very interesting, there's a book on trauma, or somebody who's come up with this, Gebor. The book's title is very interesting. It's called The Myth of the Normal. So what is normal that we have created, that this is the behavior we are doing, and it has its cost. And I would say, when we have our sessions, Urmila, who has she has a very deep practice and understanding of it. But but these are the things that we need to start talking about. And learning is different and education is different. There's a lot of thought that has gone into it. So I don't know whether the chicken will come first or the egg will come first, whether people will change and the education changes, or how we educate our learners, that will change. And then those people, when they go to those places, it will change. But right now we are deeply entrenched in that. Like, when I'm doing a session with children, they are doing exactly the thing that they have learned in the world with adults. The competition, aggression, it comes. And I was playing a collaborative game with them. And the first time they were very aggressive. And part of me was trying to say that, okay, let me tell them how to do it. Let me tell them that they should not be aggressive. So I let them go. But they could not solve the problem. I said, okay, then let's sit together and see what happened in this. Then we reflected. They said, yeah, but nobody was listening to anybody. Koi kisi ko sun nahi raha tha. And everybody was pushing each other. So they pointed out things. I said, so, okay, fine. So maybe we can drop this game right now. They said, no, can we play it again, And then I said, okay, fine, let's try it again. And second time they went a little closer. They were less aggressive. And again, it got stuck. Then I said, okay, so this time what we do, we had another sharing. And then again, another wisdom came to them. And then I said, okay, now sit in pairs of 2 people. And then these are like 9-year-old kids, First of all, they are being treated as equals, They are being treated with respect. I asked them, should I tell you how this problem will be solved? They said, no, please don't tell us. So, and the third, by the time my 1.5-hour session was there, and it was not time, and I meet them every week and I'm doing a program NVC in schools. So I said, okay, we'll meet. But what I saw, that each time they changed, in a 90-minute session, they started questioning these things, So, yeah, so we have to see them with respect. We have to model what we want from them. And when you are saying your thing, are you saying is it about the story about your children, or you are commenting on the general scenario of education?
No, actually, I have my kids that grown ups and they are in college, but in college and during school studies with 12th and 11th. So they have the massive pressures on the performance and ranking and all this. They have just gone through, and tuitions and all these stuffs in the 11th study. So I actually, I didn't like the way they have passed their educations. So means education should be joyful and it's a pleasant experience, learning experience. It should not be torturing.
Yeah, there was this quote, about theater, that you can do theater everywhere, even in a theater, So you can do learning everywhere, even in a school. So which means learning happens everywhere. So, but my question is that when you have expectations from a child, are you expecting them to fit in the system and get jobs and things like that? Or are you saying, okay, you can choose your life, do what you want to do? Is there any pressure that is going from you?
No, there is no pressures. But since they are working in the class, they have the conversations among the peers students and say, okay, I would like to go in this engineering, that person scored this much, this madam's this tuitions classes is giving this best coachings. So all this kind of comparisons is going on during the study. So even I don't pressurize them, they are pressurizing from the surroundings, means the systems itself.
I have one thing which can be little bit of give you some way to it. I mean, there are many ways, many strategies to address this. But one is that, are your children having enough self-respect? Or are you a self-worth? Or is that in your house connected to people's jobs and things like that? Or are they appreciated enough for who they are? I mean, the way they cook or the way they serve somebody or the way they chat with their uncle, are you appreciating them?
Yeah. Means we have my kids are we have give them enough freedoms, and they can.
No, my question is not about freedom. My question is not about freedom. That are you appreciating them, or is there enough appreciation in the house for who we are, just for our existence?
Yeah.
How do you appreciate?
That is yeah.
Can you give an example? How do you appreciate? What was the last appreciation that you shared?
Means the appreciations means not only in the rank, but if she would like to do some good things for some NGO or some volunteering for the college, then we will appreciate, okay, you, besides your study, you do the other things, which volunteering for the good activities or some
again,
good
that
cause.
appreciation, again, that is connected to a profession or a job, or what but just thanking them for being in your life, just I enjoy hanging out with you. So why I'm saying
means
this,
we have chatting, means we are frequent calling with each other and just keep on,
see,
okay. That's the relationship we have with the kids. But my question is not only for my kids. My question is for kids in the all the kids are under the tremendous pressures, So even we are well to do, but some people are the middle class and they are struggling for the survivals, establishing their career in the system.
Yeah, and they have been told that the survival will come through this way.
Yeah, that's what.
So the story that they have been told, so of course I understand that with your children, things are still different. But what I'm trying to say, or the kind of theory that I'm giving, is that if people have enough self-worth, they would not their worth to be connected to their rank or the jobs, or because constantly it is being told कि अगर कुछ बनोगे, बड़े होके क्या बनोगे?
Yeah.
So actually, हो गया, जानवर हो गया, वो बड़ा होके बनता नहीं है कुछ, वो होता है सारे टाइम,
right. So I come across the J. Krishnamurti's books just recently, Life Ahead. So where he's talking about that our teaching should teach the students to be fearless. So the fearless is the basic criteria or basic requirement for the education system. And all this the powers and all this stuff
is the opposite, it's all fear governed. So anyways, it's a much deeper question, and when we take this up, we will make what can be individual choices. How can we, I think you brought up a very interesting point. So there are two questions that you're asking, which a lot of people ignore. What is the individual change, the personal, and what is the collective and the structural change? So people sometimes talk about personal, like Gandhi talked about personal and collective together. So, if you are handicapped or you have a physically challenged, you cannot move around in India so much, in every city. But if you're in some other country, you have the buses and the support system. So unless we have a support system for that, what structures we need to create? So one is individually, okay, your family does things differently, then what else can happen? It's like a social transformation. It's what you're asking is how can the society transform? That's a very big question that you're asking.
Collective mindset,
So so when we see in the sessions also, we'll see the individual and the personal and the collective and the structural. So they both need to be addressed, So great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So I guess we are coming to the closing time. So what I would suggest that we have a small checkout, and where people can share anything that they're taking away from it, or any question or a query about the course, which me or Sneha can respond to, or if Sneha wants to add anything, updates or anything. Yeah.
Yes, I would like to add that this course is being offered in the spirit of gift economy. With all our courses, we like to experiment different models of it. So this time, when you enroll, you can gift this course to one underprivileged or any other parent along with you. So that would help um, for us to reach to a wider audience and people from diverse economic backgrounds. So that is there. So if any questions about that as well, most welcome. And Shammi, if you can just quickly, in maybe 1 or 2 minutes, sum up that how 3 learning outcomes that parents can take out of this course when you say that
Okay.
compassionate and authentic relationship.
Yeah. So basically, one is that you will get closer to your children, and get more trust with them. And other is that you would be able to bring up your needs also, and seek their support, and learn to be vulnerable with them. And that doesn't mean you're putting all your load on them, emotionally blackmail nahi keh raha main. But yeah, and be honest as human beings, and build a culture in which there's honesty and transparency, and along with that, compassion and empathy. So those are the skills. If they have, they would be able to navigate the world also, with the stress and chaos and challenges, because today there is so much influences in the world, and it's no longer a simple story that आप घर में उठते हो और फिर शाम को same जगह जाते हो. So yeah, so they would be much more empowered to navigate, and you would have more connection with them, and more joyful connection, I would say. Maybe more than 3 I said, but yeah, that's where. Yeah.
I think
So anybody
that
would like to share what are they taking away from this, and also one more thing, that even though there's a fee for it, but if somebody has a challenge in paying that amount and something, you can write to us and we can try to figure out a strategy for that also. So don't let this structure to be like close the gates for you if there's any reason for it. So yeah, so anybody has anything, any takeaway that they'd like to share? We have 3 minutes more, 3-4 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, hi, Nikhil here. I think the way you conducted this small workshop as a uh, introduction has given a lot of impact and made to me, and I will definitely enroll. And I would urge others to enroll if they want to have such deep conversations with their kids. Thanks a lot.
Great. That's very encouraging, because as you said, that how can we'll have deep conversations, so that would be fun, I mean, and also this fear of conflict will go away, and the children have been taught that conflict is bad. Actually, conflict is essential, but we need to create spaces for conflict, and create spaces. And इतना कि काल पात्र और स्थान मैंने सुना हुआ है, how do we make culture where conflicts can flower and we can get something gifts out of that. Thank you. Anyone else? Thank you, Pankaj.
Me, I think it's twofold. Yeah, thank you. It's twofold. One is that I feel it gives me a chance to look at my mechanical responses. It comes from this very deep conditioning. Okay, they've answered me back, and the patriarchy says that's rude. Somewhere I've been taught that it's rude. Badon se aise baat nahi karte,
Yes.
And obviously it opens up a lot. And then second of all, I think sometimes I may know, but I don't have the tools as a parent.
I don't have the tools.
I don't have the tools to navigate that process. I may know ki what they are saying is right.
Yeah.
And I don't have the tools to navigate.
Sure.
I don't know how to go about. Yeah, you understand, right? So I think, yeah, this is what I'm taking, that First of all, it gives me a chance to look at my conditioning.
Sure.
And then second of all, it may give me tools to kind of address, like you said, conflict.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm hearing like awareness at different levels, awareness of where I'm stuck, and awareness of how to get out of it, So thank you. Great, Sneha. So I guess we are at 6:30. So should we call it a day?
Yes. Swati, you would like to share something or? Okay, I think she's not there. All right, so we'll call it a day, and thank you, Shammi, for doing this and taking this webinar and taking time out to do an introductory session. And thank you all of you as well for taking this small step towards building a more meaningful relationship with your children. I really enjoyed today's conversation and this session, and I look forward to having you all in the workshop. If any difficulties, please feel free to write to us. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you.
Sneha, for coordinating this. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Thank you.